I hope you have a lot of questions, because this is where we're going to use the final hour for. And you first have to connect to Dimi, then?
Okay, so let's now connect with Dimitry.
Hello, Dimitry.
Hi.
Hi, you can hear us. That's great.
Yes.
We are starting the Q&A session right now. It would be nice, because you are one of the guys who didn't have an introduction because you didn't do a talk. Can you share what you are doing at BigChain, where you work, and at Ocean Protocol, to give a short introduction?
Hi, everyone. Hi. Cool. Yeah. So share what I do at Ocean Protocol and BigChainDB. So I've co-founded BigChainDB and wrote the first consensus paper about it. Then moved on to creating applications on BigChainDB. Also developed a bit of a programming language around that. We did a lot of things related to track and trace, digital twins, copyright. There's a whole lot more, and it ended up creating something like a decentralized data exchange on top of BigChainDB. And that kind of started to live its life by itself, which is now Ocean Protocol, which is a protocol to bring together data and machine learning expertise in an open market. So it's a bit more targeted towards public utility networks, where you have a token supporting it, and you create a network that's self-sustaining. So you just build it, you build the protocol, and then you walk away and see what happens. So very curious how that's going to be. But that's a bit of my life cycle throughout the blockchain space. So it's always been about the data for us. So decentralizing data, self-sovereign data, empowering the individual, giving them control and access to monetization opportunities for the data they own and control.
Super. Thank you very much for the introduction. We have a second new face here for you all. Please stand. Harm van der Brink.
Hi, Harm.
Hey. Dimi. Yes, that's working. Thank you. Should I introduce myself?
Short introduction so that the people know what kind of questions they can ask.
Okay. I'm a colleague from JP, also working for Enexis, Dutch grid operator, also working for ELAT, focused on e-mobility. So you might have seen the Iota charge station. That was actually one of my projects. And I'm also working for the Iota Foundation and working with the Iota Foundation in business development and development of actual use cases on Iota.
Yeah, so basically, if you have a machine and you want to put it on Iota, Harm can tell you everything about it. Okay.
Thanks.
What we want to do is, as we hope we have a lot of questions, we're going to use the throw box. Please first state who you want to answer your question, so I can give the mic and then ask your question. Who wants to be first? Yes. There you go.
Oh, is this on? Yeah. My question is for you, JP. You've been talking about the paradigm shift, and I find that idea really intriguing, because there are some use cases in production now that are really incremental innovations, but how do we really get to that disruptive potential? What would be your idea how to get that paradigm shift? Where can we do that? What should we do to open our eyes, so to say?
Yeah. That's a very nice question. Thank you very much. Of course, we have been experimenting, so I cannot tell you this is the way, but this is our way we are doing it. It's always good to start with a basic need you really feel passionate about. And then you take this basic need and you look how we solve this in the world of today. And then you will see that we have created value chain to deliver that basic need. And this value chain is optimized to maximize the amount of money we get out of it. What I really would like to challenge you all is to look at this value chain and ask yourself what can be different. For this value chain to cause economic growth, you have to create a lot of waste. Products have to be thrown away so they can be sold again. Products need lock-in so that people can protect their business models. This is a way to solve it, but this does not have the way that you are going to solve it. So we use the example of a car a lot of time. People have a need of transportation. And we solved it by building cars, and we have so many cars that we have huge parking problems. In the best moment that we use the most cars, we use 6% of the cars. So that means that if you look for a solution for transportation, you don't have to solve the 94% of cars that are parked. You only have to solve the problem of the 6% of the cars that are driving. The cars of today exist of spare parts that are not interchangeable. Those spare parts, if you cannot use them, you throw them away. So look at production and imagine that every part that the car needs, if it's broken, you melt it and you 3D print it again. If you create machine-to-machine ecosystems on which cars are apart and they talk to other machines, and you are basically mimicking a part of nature, you have two elements who don't care about money. So the transaction does not need to have an identity, because if a bee flies to a flower, he doesn't give his identity, and then the flower checks his identity and they exchange money. The algorithms of nature work differently. So what happens if you take that to your car? And does it make any sense to think about car as entities, or are it a number of parts that reassemble continuously? So just by using the word car, and everybody's thinking about self-driving car, and giving a lot of different angles, you come up to a broad range of different solutions. And please bear in mind, you don't have to come up with the idea solely alone, just have a topic that you're interested in. And we and the other experts are there to help you to do the paradigm shifts, to do the mind shifts. So, thank you for the question.
Yes, thank you for answering it.
Yes?
One moment. Woo.
This was low.
We can also do it in two, but it's more adventurous to do it in one.
Okay. So this is slightly Iota BigChainDB more or less related, because we've seen the game, and you have the Iota basically small nodes, when you have a BigChainDB nodes on top, and then you have another interface, so assuming that's going to run on a server. If we're doing machine-to-machine economy, we're not just trying to go from centralized to decentralized, we want to do it distributed. And we're adding a lot of overhead. Isn't it easier to use like one way, for example, to make BigChainDB nodes smaller? Because you guys are using either MongoDB or Rethink, right? BigChainDB?
Dimitri or Journey, who's going to take the question?
Yeah, we use
yeah, but for that, I mean, they have very high requirements. Can we, do you have like an alternate version? Because even in your documentation, it's not really written what are the minimum requirements of running a node of BigChainDB. So could it be possible to make them run on embedded devices, such as single board computers?
Okay, so here you hit a bit of the boundaries of the CAP theorem. Huh? I mean, if you're talking about a database that's basically a composition of edge devices and only hold portions of the truth, then you probably are running into a lot of other issues related to queryability, achieving shared state, the consistency across that shared state. So there's a lot of things that you cannot solve. Now, the main thing you have is you have consistency, availability, partition tolerant, pick two. You cannot have all of them. So that's why we chose a hybrid model between Iota and BigChainDB, because where the partition tolerance of Iota helps in making those nodes independent from each other and work at high speed in communication, there you also have the availability and the consistency of BigChainDB to basically make a query layer on top of that. So I don't think you can just solve it by choosing one of the other. I think you have to choose both best of breed combinations, and that's what we're proposing in this solution.
But at this point, you would also require the milestone or the core node server, how is it called in Iota? One that is actually requiring a lot of power. Currently, they are using one against like potential attacks, if I remember correctly, isn't?
Yeah, so I know Iota has been trying to set up permanodes and has like a bit of a central coordination. It's not always ideal. I mean, yeah, there will be a few nodes, like you could call them super nodes, that try to aggregate data as much as possible and make it consistent across the entire network. That will take some power and effort. But yeah, is that the right question? Because the answer to the right question, I'm not sure.
No, it's fine. So my question was basically, for now, for the hackathon, we should just rely on this infrastructure. So we have Iota as a base layer. For the small nodes, then we have BigChainDB on top, which is basically aggregating the data. We just have to agree to use the big Iota super nodes for now.
Yeah, yeah. So a typical way we look at this is Iota is used for machine authenticity and message authenticity of the machines. And then, yeah, you need something to organize the information to make sure that there is more relevant metadata information than just the messaging. There is also information about the decentralized identities, about maybe some meta information about their location, their state, all of that. Yeah, and then you rather use a distributed, decentralized store than a fully partitioned network, which is also a problem you will find if you use, for example, Swarm or even IPFS, where there is not really like global consistency across the states, and it's not always required if you know where to find your data, but typically you don't know where to find it.
Okay, no, that's great. Thank you very much.
And I really liked the question, because one of the questions we also have is, okay, do you do everything in the layer, or do you really work on edge computing? So if that's in one of the solutions you are thinking about, that would also be of great interest to us.
I just had a question for Aga van der Mee of Dween. You spoke a lot, there was a lot of content in your 4 elements of Machinata. Could you please repeat that a little bit, spend a little bit more time? Thank you.
Yeah, I still have to say sorry for all that content, I think. But it was one of the requests that I
Take the stage,
time. Yeah, I think I was stressing the idea that nature has a few relatively simple design elements. And if you look at the intelligent rational agents, so if you are going down this route with your machines, so machine learning, AI, agent approach, there are basically only 4 main building blocks you would require as a minimum. And the most important would be your environment. And it's very helpful to think about this as the task environment. So what is the relevant environment I'm working on or I'm working with? And it also has to host your communication back and forth between the machines. So the only interaction between machines, if you're using multiple agents for machines, is the environment. So the feedback loops through the environment are very important. This brings us to the sensors, right? Your machine, your agent has to take in information, always through a sensor, from the environment, coming from other machines or other sources. And then that it judges and it does a few interesting things on it. We can go into this a bit more in depth, but then it comes to the actuator, meaning it will act on the input, the sensory input, and giving it back to the environment, which can then be, again, another machine or an agent. And the fourth element of, well, basically this square of input you minimally need is the performance standard. So what are you trying to achieve with your, well, machine ecosystem? That's it. Yeah. And I think maybe some of the most interesting thinking is in this environment. That is, how could you enrich the environment? So keep the agents maybe simple or machines, but enrich the environment that you can actually get more emergent behavior that is more rich, complex, more resilient, and that actually there you get a lot of the benefits of starting to use this machine-to-machine setup and ecosystem. I hope that answers the question. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you. Next question.
So this magically came to me. There are actually teams in the room who have applied and are confirmed for this track. So I'm very curious what their initial idea was and how it evolved during this meeting. So who is the team captain of teams that are over there? Yeah,
That's
I'll probably toss it to you then.
Of today.
Here we go.
Yeah. Woo! 10 points. This we can also do as a game.
That worked out fine, thank you. So I actually had a few written down. Please state your team name, sir. Oh yeah, sure. So hi, I'm Johannes Bertens.
Yeah,
I'm from Team One Up.
And it's one of the teams. Come up and applause. This will be one of the teams.
Not so used to this, but hi everyone. Thank you. So we had a brainstorm a few weeks ago about what we could do for this track and what we could do as a team, and we came up with an idea to solve world hunger. Of course, well, why not? During the hackathon, sure. It was interesting to have a talk from Arash today. Is he still here?
Yeah.
Ah, hi. Yeah, I really loved your talk because it also touched on the topic we were thinking on, and it combined it with energy. Which made me sketch a few things about how we can use energy and use the energy of the sun to actually do something with world hunger and maybe plant some plants and make sure that they get enough water. So we're still working on this. So my question would be for you, what do you think is a really need in, for example, Asia and Africa for food? What is acute, if that's a word, acute problem there.
Oh, wow. Can we ask you on the stage so that the people at home also...
Sure. Wait a minute. Throw my slack away. Okay, oh wow. So, that's a big question, and suddenly I'm asked to think about food, and I love thinking about food.
Turn it on.
Oh, and hi. So thank you for this question. I love thinking about food. The thing is, I don't really have an answer, but the first thing that came up into my mind was, you know what the acute thing there is, that we actually give people in Africa and Asia and Latin America the space to actually eat the food that grows on their own soil, and that we learn to eat local food. I believe that would be the most fundamental principle that we should apply to solving the world's food issues that we have right now.
So actually decentralizing the production of food?
Yeah, distributed food production, basically.
Localizing consumption.
And definitely, yeah.
Okay, well that's a great start, I guess. Yeah.
I think that's the first that would come up. You know, that kind of seems ecologically logical to me. But I'm not.
Yeah, we were thinking
I'm not an expert.
About using robotics to improve this, also building upon something, well, that was in the top right corner, I guess, robotics, or in the top left, moving to the right in your talk. Age. Yeah, difficult name as well for me. But so is there any use of robotics yet in these developing countries? Is it feasible to use robotics here?
Actually, yes, there is. Yeah, there is actually. There's an increased. There's a few misconceptions that we have about what we call developing countries. And first, let me start by saying that I would wish that every country is a developing country, because then something good happens. But also, having done quite some work in Niger and Kenya and a couple of other places. If you go to these startup communities, for instance, in Nairobi, I was amazed by the quality of the dev teams that are active there, of the wireframes that they're programming, of the use of all kinds of modern technologies. And even if you look further into the country, for instance, Kenya right now is a country where out of all the transactions that take place today, 63% is digital. It's going from mobile to mobile. And here we are only starting to get a grasp of these new technologies, and there it's common. Everybody has a digital wallet. And why? Because of lack of a banking infrastructure and lack of cash. Well, they basically came up with M-Pesa, which is a digital cash derivative, and which is kind of managed by Safaricom, which is a telco. And it's doing amazingly, and it's kind of taking over the entire sub-Saharan African region, which, so we already have so much in place there. And I really believe that it is not up to us to offer help to the poor Africans anymore. It's up to us to actually ask their help.
Perfect.
So,
yeah. Can I tractate you? How do you call it? Invite you for a pizza or a virtual pizza with our team soon?
Oh, I love actual pizza, but virtual pizza is good also. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, it would be
Looking
awesome.
forward to this. Thank you very much. Thank you.
And just by naming the topic of food, you open up so many resources, because how is the food produced? If you have food robots, where is their intelligence? Where are the machines? How are the machines produced? Do we have machines who produce those machines? If you look at the matrix of Age, which technology is going to be the most disruptive in this field of human interest? So, super. This was very inspiring. Is there another team also here that is going to participate and wants to share their experiences? Yes.
Yeah, we're really searching for our use case still yet.
Okay.
We're thinking about applying Iota. But yeah, we sit together with the team, and one thing became clear: we're not going to be dealing with cars, because a lot of machine-to-machine is all around cars, around autonomous vehicles. So we'll be looking for alternative use cases. But yeah, we're really exploring that at the moment. I have a question for Age though. Yeah, in your presentation, it was really about artificial intelligence, and I'm wondering what you see as one of the biggest threats, or what should be prerequisites for artificial intelligence. Because actually, if you look at the opinion, for instance, Elon Musk, he's also quite negative about future potential effects of artificial intelligence. Can you elaborate on that and maybe your vision?
Yeah, of course, I should have seen this question coming up and should have prepared to give the answer. Okay, the question is, what do you see beyond this, if I may have words, beyond this AI horizon? Where could it go to if it is indeed an exponential improvement? Could we catch up? Could humans somehow, be in trouble because of this? The whole open AI thinking is around this. And to share first, maybe a way of thinking about this, there is a big debate, and Musk is on one side, but quite a few others on the other side, that says, okay, when will it be there? So general AI or strong AI? And what will come first? Will it be generalized AI, so strong AI, or nanotechnology? Because both nanotechnology would, to a large extent, also affect ourselves, our biology. And AI, of course, would be artificial and would have less of an impact directly on humans. So which one comes first is relevant. I think one of the most interesting things is that they held a big questionnaire 1 year ago under all the AI researchers. So Andrew Ng was in there and all the top guys. And they basically said they put the year on 2047 for generalized AI. That's what the scientist community is giving as a mean estimate. Yeah, I can only speculate about this. The thing is that usually when we develop new tools, we can choose how we use them. And how we use the tools that we create, whether for good or evil, is up to us. So, but thinking through these, impacts and these consequences that they could have, it's very important to do this beforehand. Because usually when you are there, when you've developed these tools, it's very difficult then to restrain things or to cut things down. So for example, we already said, hey, cluster munitions we're not going to use, or blinding ammunitions we're not going to use. All of these were there, some of them, before we actually invented them. They're trying to do the same thing with this AI sphere. I think while we are developing them with one hand, we should, in the other hand, have our moral judgment and think before we actually create these things, set out basically the rules of engagement and how we should use them. Because I think we will not, maybe we transcend our own brains, but we will not transcend our own humanity. I expect that we will actually give this humanity to the new, machines we are creating. Yeah. But this is maybe something for later on during the day to talk about. Yeah.
And if I may add, as a human, it's logical to think that a superhuman can solve all the problems, so more intelligence. But if we look at nature, we are astonished of the things a thing as simple as an ant can do by using as a collective and working as a collective and emergent. So choosing the path of the superintelligence is a path you can choose, but there are also different options. So exploring these different options would also be very great to do in this hackathon track.
Hey JP, can I add something there?
Yeah. The voice from above.
No, I think that's super interesting. I mean, if you asked me 3 years ago what's the benefits of blockchain, it would be like, oh, you can connect parties that don't trust each other on a trust ledger. There's a few other cool things like immutability, transparency, provenance, all of that. But we recently kind of got to the realization that it's about mechanism design, it's about incentives. Bitcoin makes people do stuff. It makes actually people create better ASICs to secure the network. That's the objective function of Bitcoin, secure the network. And there is a token attached to it, and that incentivizes people to do so. Now, we can do way better than just securing the network. We can actually pool resources, pool knowledge, intelligence, pool things together that make a self-sustaining future. And I think thinking about those mechanisms, thinking about those objectives is one of the first things you should do when creating a decentralized tokenized network. And yeah, you're here in the front seat to think about these things. So love to see what comes out.
Super. Yeah. And you are exactly right. We now have the opportunity, because we have this decentralized world where a lot of people are going to work together. And we are now trying to understand this working together and this network. And we talk about trust, because we then say, without trust, nothing can exist. One of the examples we work on to challenge our ideas is the product of oxygen. Because it's the best product in the world. If you don't breathe for 3 minutes, you die. And there's almost no company that can make money out of it. And funnily enough, it's so important, oxygen. Without it, you die. And nobody has a trust issue with oxygen. So is it really about the trust? Or is it that we have some topics we think about because it has something to do with money, and then we try to explain it, and then the trust comes in? Or is it more like the mycelium network that Hannah talked about, which I really love, because first it has to be Star Trek, check. Yeah. Now we're talking on it scientifically, and tomorrow we are going to build, and tomorrow is April 5th then. So is it connecting and nature, and is it not only a story about technology, but also about human levels, and what do humans need to interact? So then it's a blockchain hackathon, but it's also a societal hackathon. If this inspires you, this would also be a great story. We have one totally at the back, so I need the best thrower of the room.
There are cameras in, yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's 10 points.
Okay, so in line with this, in the end, in all these ecosystems, there is one sector of the ecosystem that benefits from either joining the network at the beginning, or, for example, if you are a miner, if you have access to external resources, if you are in Slovenia and electricity is cheaper, then I can run a node cheaper, so I can compete in a better position with someone who's running a node in the Netherlands or in Spain with the energy bills are ridiculous. So how do you think that blockchain can be used to, instead of enhancing that we have this top of the world priorities, or like we are still trying to keep our own interests and our own privileges? How can we use blockchain to actually break down that, and instead of putting one percentage of the society in the top, distribute all that wealth to the rest of the world? Because I think there was someone who talked about this. 90% of the people who are born poor are going to die poor, and 90% of the people who are rich are going to die rich. And this is a quote from a Nobel Prize in economics, and it's still true. Can we change that with blockchain?
Blockchain is a technology, and what's going to change the world is what we do with it. So we can change it. And how can we change it? By looking at the stories of today, where everybody talks about money and what is my benefit, and realize that there are some people who come to a blockchain session about that they know will be open source and is about the future. So this is a special group of people. And what can we do with this group of people? We can look at basic needs first from an engineering point of view. And to give you an example, I come from the energy industry. This morning, as you woke up, the sun was shining, delivering a raw layer of energy everywhere on the earth, for free, on your roof. And you need it 1 meter below in the socket. We already have technology that we are working on that takes this raw energy and turns it into usable energy. If with this group we come up with narratives where we only solve the engineering problem and find a way to translate it in machines to machines, and those machines are not about making money, but just solving this problem, then a very funny thing will happen. The solutions will be cheaper. And although there are people who do not get the rethinking and the paradigm shifts, but cheaper, they understand. They are trained to understand cheaper. So this is where I like the talk of Hilde very much, where she says, if we build machines, interacting with machines, we have a solution that is much, much, much cheaper. Maybe even so cheap that no company can compete. What happens if we let a bit of the money that will flow, because we start in the economy of today, and give it back as basic income, and if the solution matures, the amount of basic income grows. And then you'll see more and more people using this solution, and how more people, if more people use it, more people, or the people get more income. And this is again something they understand. And then you will have the point that you also get the basic income, but you still the old solutions, and the people will say, hey, he's still using the old solution, he's getting our basic income. And the funny thing is you only need a small group of people to grasp these concepts, to build it, and to share it open source. And as soon as the solution is there, and it is there on that funny layer of the internet, so it's immediately everywhere, there will be countries that use it. And as soon as you have some countries who use it, you have politicians in other countries who say, no, I've made some agreements, we cannot use it here. Then they have a tough time explaining why not. Because the solutions that generate basic income are there and they work if we come to that point of time. So that's why it's so nice to play with the narratives to come to these different solutions. And Arash gave a great example how we can have, because this is a very big change, but just changing the way that it's not about money, but it is about the flow. This is, it's also a story that radically changes the way things work. But it is closer to how the world works today, so it will be faster implemented. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I just put two and two together listening to what was being said here, and I realized something. So we're talking about...
Gil.
We're talking about building a world where machines can 3D print parts of themselves and parts of new things, and I'm thinking open source because I'm an open source guy, and I just want to point out something. There's an effort going on. There's many efforts going on right now to make open source licenses machine readable. Meaning, so there's APIs that are being developed so that a program can look at an open source license, figure out programmatically what it can do with it. Take that, then think, I'm a program, I need to add functionality. I'm open source, meaning I have a license that governs how I can be used, what I can do with my source code. I want to add functionality to myself. Like I want to 3D print a wheel, I want to add a web server or whatever. How do I pick up a piece of code that is compatible with me, with a license that is compatible with me? So think about it. When you write your applications, you know, maybe it's worth thinking, how can I write something that can actually append to itself, modify what it's made out of by itself in a way that is compatible, coherent, and authorized by the license it's come with and of the things it's using. I don't know, anybody here has used Lisp, the old programming? Yeah, everybody with gray hair has. Everybody else? Anybody else? So, you know, Lisp considers code and data the same thing, the same way. So think our programs of today are going to be looking at other pieces of program as building blocks, same thing as data, and they need to figure out a way.
Thank you very much. And also a very nice other idea. So, again, the only thing it takes from you now is the energy to start the endeavor and explore with us. And we, if you have the ideas, we will look at what kind of resources we can arrange.
I had a question, but you
okay. First a question.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm curious about your ideas that, like, in a systemic level, how this change will happen, because looking into the committee of the blockchainers, I see a lot of incumbent companies. And then one promise of blockchain that's saying that, okay, there are some unnecessary players in the value chain, then they will be out, like utility companies. But then I see Neon as one of the like participants or the part of this committee. So what are their expectations from this hackathon? Like what is technology will make like change in their system and in their being in the energy industry? And then also what are the expectations of the startups in terms of making a systemic change and taking some parties out of this game?
It's okay. Yeah, it's okay. Ladies and gentlemen, Michiel of Nuon, one of the big corporates. Please take the stage for the people at home.
Is it still on? Yeah. So I didn't saw you last week at our place.
I was there.
Oh, you was there.
Yeah.
So I already answered your question or not?
It wasn't still clear.
So yeah, the reason why we are participating is to make a movement in the energy transition. And blockchain is a really nice solution or a tool to speed up the technology and the push to do good for humanity in Europe and hopefully in the rest of the world. So that's the reason why we are participating. The use cases that we provide is to look for cheaper solutions for the whole energy market. So the energy price eventually will be low and hopefully someday will be free, like Arash was telling. So that's kind of why we are participating.
So then how do you see the role of Nuon in this new energy system? Like, for example, Universal Right was talking about, or if you have a peer-to-peer exchange system, then how do you see Nuon will exist?
Well, the energy landscape is changing, so we have to participate on that. We see, local communities, we see decentralized production, but there is always a need of central production also. So that's why we are also investing in wind farms, large-scale wind farms, and ways to store energy in an efficient way. So not only in small batteries, but also in large seasonal storage. So there always will be a role for energy supply or energy production and supply.
Yeah, if I... Is it on? It's on. If I may, thank you. I mean, hi. Guess who's back? And, you know what? We're friends.
Yeah.
So just to add a little bit to this, what we're going to witness in the coming couple of years is a very thorough, what we call decommoditization of the energy market. Right now, we still have quite a bunch of companies that are used to making money by selling energy. And the more they sell, the more they earn. And now we're seeing we're at the verge of the first companies that are actually earning more as they sell less energy because we're decommoditizing energy. There's no money to be made by selling energy anymore. So the vision is actually that we have is for an energy company to be a zero net distributor of energy. So there's basically, if they add up and subtract all the energy that is being inputted into the system and that's being taken out of the system by all their clients, below the line it's going to be zero. That's the optimum for an energy company, which means that they make no more money on selling energy. But looking at that, there's still a number of services that are worth a lot to the market and that should be taken care of by energy companies. And one of them is on my right-hand side, which is basically taking care of the capacity market. What is the line that you're connected to? What kind of a line is it? Is it transferring electrons or photons or some gasified forms of energy, or is it in tanks? So that's the distribution network. And on the other hand, we see the flexibility market, which is how much energy do you actually need when it's not available within your own premises, coming from your own roof, for instance. Or how much are you adding to the energy system that you are producing but don't need at that moment yourself. And that's kind of a soft traffic management role that is extremely important for keeping the balance in the system. And that's why there's still a market for both parties but it will be fundamentally different from what we see today.
Just to add something, the telcos have already done that. The telcos have already done that. How many here pay your phone calls?
Can you...
Right? Now operators are saying you pay a flat fee per month. I don't know for you, but for me in Europe it's 20, in France it's 20 euros, and I get to call almost any country in the world for as long as I want, as often as I want. I don't pay my phone calls. And by the way, I get unlimited internet over that same thing. So even if I were to pay my phone calls, I'll use WhatsApp, and I still don't pay my calls. So that model exists there, where the utility, whether the electricity or water or phone, they're going to stop selling you the basic service anyway. They're going to give it to you for free. They're going to sell what has a significant value add, whether that is consuming energy at a higher rate than the basic rate, or selling energy to somebody who needs it right now next to you, things like that. So that all of these added value services will become what people are willing to pay for, but anything that is the basic, the baseline service is going to be free. It works. It works for telcos. It'll work for electricity soon enough.
And the important thing with that is that we see the product now as we buy energy. But imagine that you can create superpowers who dominate energy. Then the product is no longer that you buy energy, but that you have the ability to buy energy, because without energy, everything stops. The light goes out. So if you have a few parties who are not in there for the greater good, for society, and they would control energy, then you come in the kind of dystopia where we do not want to be. And that's why we are inspiring you to create utopias where energy is as abundant as oxygen. The raw energy is there.
I have to come up to stage? No, just a quick question. So if I do want to build something with cars, I would like Sebastian to explain to me how he is going to help me and what you've already done in this space, because I think it's quite amazing. Harm, sorry.
Okay, I should go on stage, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, what we did with electric vehicles is that right now you have charge stations all across Europe, most of them in the Netherlands. And what you see, for example, in Germany is that if you travel from north to south, you need like 70 different cards to charge your car. So it's not very convenient. So what we try to do is, what if we start all over again? So there is no card. There is no company selling the card to me. There is no infrastructure needed for this sharing this information. What if we just use Iota and use Iota in a way that you can pay with it, but also share information so that you can tell from a car perspective that I need, like, let's say 10 kilowatt hours of energy. And the charge station can tell you, okay, I can deliver this amount of energy in 2 hours, for example. And what you can think of, that's only one charge station and only one car. But what if you have in a total area, you have different cars or multiple cars and multiple charge stations, and they can all share information with each other. So their energy needs and or even how much energy they can give back to the grid. You can think of a total new distributed energy grid, maybe with still a connection to the grid operator, but only for backup. And with solar panels and things like that, that you can build a network which is self-sustainable and which can share information using Iota. So that's what we try to do as a start. So we start with only a charge station electric car. We're now expanding that proof of concept to have a real machine-to-machine. So the car and the charge station are now going to interact with each other. We also try to use a transformer, or at least the capacity of the transformer, in that pilot. And that's what we're building right now. So I would be happy to talk to anybody who has any ideas on that or want to build something like that in a hackathon as a game. That would be awesome.
And are you bringing your hardware to the hackathon too, if teams are interested?
Yeah, if you want to, I can of course bring that with us.
Okay, very cool.
Even if someone's joining
How do you mean?
Yeah. You need. Where's the throw box?
I cannot throw this one, but I'll try.
The cool thing about the thing is, is it the throw box or a troll box?
Sorry.
No,
Is it on?
It's
Yes.
okay. It's okay.
Yeah, that works.
What I was asking is, if someone's joining another track, will you also share the hardware you have or the programs you have? For example, if you're joining,
You're asking this track about co-creation.
Yeah.
Is
of
it
course,
only
you can-
for art, or do we co-create with?
No,
exactly.
we are open to co-create, but just tell me what you need, and let's see
I think
what we can get you.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Harm. Harm, can I?
Hey, Dimi, yeah, sure. Let me get in front of you.
On the
Yeah, but
hackathon. What if you build something that has a public broadcast?
Sorry,
Breaking up.
Yeah, Dimi is silent. Can
Dimi, I can't hear you.
Yeah.
Dimi is silent.
Am I still muted?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
you are. You're
Yes.
back.
So yeah, the question was creating something like a public broadcast function for services. Think about machines becoming beacons and transmitting like, hey, I'm offering this service. Do you like it or not? Do you want to engage with me or not? I think that's a very basic type of communication between devices that has not been yet implemented, still is needed in the ecosystem. So it would be super cool because it allows services to discover each other and to interact with each other on a very basic level as a beacon or something like that. So, any taker?
Great idea.
But that is implemented, if I'm correct, Harm.
The charge
broadcast.
station does broadcast itself as I am a charge station, I'm here at this location or geolocation, and the rate is this. But of course, Dimi, great idea, because you can expand this with, let's say, I'm a house, I have solar energy, and I have overcapacity. Please use my energy because I need to get rid of it.
I have a question for you, because this track is not only the one with the most radical ideas, but also is I think the track that involves the outside world the most, and taking with sensors and Iota, taking the outside world into the blockchain world. Where do we get the resources? To interface blockchain with the outside world. Probably Iota with Raspberry Pis and microcontrollers, etc. Where do we find those resources to connect the outside world?
I think, JP?
Yeah, what do you need?
Yeah.
Okay, but in terms of software, you built a charging station, right? Is that software open source, so we can have an example how to work with that? For instance, there are questions that I have about pruning the tangle, which are not answered in the white paper. Where do we find that information?
I guess via me, so I might point you in the right direction at the people from the Iota Foundation who can answer that question. So
yeah, but that's exactly where the preparation phase, what Stefan was talking about, is for. And start tomorrow, because if it's really big we have to do, then we have until the April the 5th. That's why we want to be in close contact with all the teams to gather the needs, gather the ideas, see with whom you want to talk, to share it with the people, for example, of BigChainDB, who say, oh, this could be really valuable, and bring those together.
Yep.
The nice thing is we are co-creating for a better world. We cannot imagine how many friends we have.
Okay.
I have a cool little device here that we might be able to bring along. So what we have here is like little tags. They're NFC powered. I don't know if you really can see them, but they kind of have like a little antenna. They also have a crypto chip inside, so this is basically an identity on a chip. They don't speak Iota yet, but they do speak BigChainDB. So these are things that you can just, I think they cost like 20 cents or something. You can tag them somewhere, and then you scan them, and it gets all the information from BigChainDB, IPFS related to this product, and it can even like sign off on messages, compute a little hash, like do minimal functionality. So with these things, you can basically create something like a digital twin, tag it on a physical product, like, for example, food, tag it on here, and then everything can communicate with this, and this little thingy becomes its product memory across the supply chain. So I think we can provide like let's say 10 or 20 of them to distribute to the team. There's even trusted QR codes that we can play around with, so let us see what we can bring along. We need an inventory for all this stuff, by the way.
Okay, I now have 3 questions. I have one, somebody there who's holding the throw box. Then I would suggest then, secondly, throw the throw box to the guy who's holding his arm for more than half an hour. Impressive. And then, yeah?
Yep. Can I?
Yeah.
I just have a doubt and a question. So the doubt is I'm not sure if I will participate to the hackathon, but I'm interested in this track. But I want to understand mainly from the organization and also from Dimitry and Iota, what is the rationale about this track? Because my background is finance, so I care about profit, let's put it this way.
Yeah.
And what came out from this track as an issue is the transition, right? And if I look at the story that somebody can apply for, I look at the third one, which is about collaboration in a non-profit area. So my question is, why non-profit? I think the issue is in the profit. So we should find a way to collaborate to basically redistribute wealth in the way it is done now, in a better way, so that we can go towards like a universal income. I don't think that anybody here would have the right incentive to work hard just to go towards universal income, in my opinion. So you need to use blockchain as a tool for incentivize people to solve issues, but also to redistribute the way profit is generated. So I have a solution for that, but I don't see, I thought in this track would be the right one, but still have some doubts about it. So if anybody can answer on that.
I think that's, or do you want? No. I think it's good to have a one-to-one talk after the session, so that we can look how these stories come together. The reason why we said exploring the non-profit is that there are some scientific papers of Martin Scheffer who looked at the inequality in nature, because it is there also and in society. And in nature, you have in Amazon forest, you have some trees who take up 50% of the biomass of the whole ecosystem. What in nature happens is it weakens them so that you have a system that is changing and changing. The same mechanism in society would be, as you say, wealth redistribution. So wealth redistribution is a very important topic to come to a new stable state of society. I think it's important that it's going to happen. You can have a storyline where it's very important for corporates because they are also part of the organism which we call world, and as part of the non-profits. We, as a Nexus and ALAT, we are part of non-profits. So if we frame the story, we also have our own blind spots. So we say non-profit, it would be very nice to have it from a corporate side as well. But let's do that one-on-one.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I really love the visions that were created here in my mind, and for others as well, I guess. Yeah, the visions of sharing data and doing good things with it. And if there would be a basic income, I would still work. But yeah, if you have a good purpose to do things, then you are intrinsically motivated, I think. At least some people are.
Yeah.
Well, great visions, but there might be a party pooper, which in Europe at least, which is the GDPR. The regulation that personal data, when a consumer has to give explicit consent to use, so that the data can be used, and only that part of the data can be used that is addressed in the goal. I have two questions about this. First of all, you said in the machine-to-machine economy, we're not talking about personal data, there is no GDPR. Is that true, legally, and why is that true?
Because you need legal people who live to have a GDPR.
But so if there is someone in your car driving around, you can probably identify them with all the data that is generated.
But okay, yeah.
That's the first question.
Yeah.
Second question is related to the Oceans Protocol. How does the Oceans Protocol address the GDPR?
Okay, that one is going to above, the voice from above. The first question is that if we look on how we arrange data today, data is a product. So a lot of problems are solved where we have data that also can use in other products. The question is, does the data has to be this way? So for if you have the bacteria that are crawling, they don't have data resource that you can read, but still they are able to find their ways.
Will there be a GDPR specialist present during that?
Happily, yes, and provided by the guys of Nuon. So, GDPR from an Ocean Protocol side, Dimi.
Yeah, I would like to add something, Erwin.
Yeah.
I think yourself, you have great ideas on how to give consent on data, because that is one of your projects I think you're working on. So could you elaborate a bit more on that for us, or?
Yeah, that is about energy data, smart meter data, highly frequent from the P1 port, to be specific, which is high frequency energy data that is very privacy sensitive, because you can see, for example, with machine learning algorithms, what television people are watching. And at Alliander, I am putting an authorization on that, so that the user has to give explicit consent when the data is used. And if everything goes through, I will be doing that with R&D on Iota. Probably also collaborating with Harm a bit.
Yeah.
So that's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
But this data is, of course, this is clearly personal data.
But GDPR is a question in the energy track.
Yes,
and if you are working on,
well,
please join the hackathon, even if it's not on our track.
I definitely will.
Just to add one thing, GDPR and blockchain go amazingly well together. We've been implementing the GDPR solutions using blockchain for our customers, because what we do is every time we have to do something with private data, we mark that we're doing something on the blockchain. And that includes things like asking for that data to be made useless or changed. And because it's marked every time you do it on a blockchain, there is this auditability, etc., that's required by the GDPR regulation. So actually, blockchain and GDPR are a perfect match. Of course, if you see blockchain as something that's immutable, it's kind of like confusing, because GDPR says I need to be able to change my data. You don't store the data in the blockchain. Use the blockchain to mark what you're doing with your data, and then you're all set.
And what about the AI data? It's used for AI.
Maybe this brings us to a perfect conclusion, because I see a relationship here between Dimi, your open, the open ocean, and the beacon approach. We have the identifiable data, the GDPR, that is now coming at us. Every legal person that works with legal stuff is now completely busy with this. But also the cooperation between teams. I see here maybe an enormous possibility, the chance actually to shift this paradigm, because all this data is now out there and they have to respond. So basically the GDPR, you are anonymous. If you change this to actually the data is your own, this simple step, and you not only give consent, you also sell it. You now have basically the marketplace up there. You can sell your own data, and then hopefully there are these teams that are creating, well, the machine-to-machine ecosystems that can actually work with the data that is then okay for you to be shared and actually are able to deliver services at higher quality, lower cost, better response times. I think in this sense, by shifting this thinking on this, well, anonymity and connecting the non-marketplaces, I think you're in a great position maybe to shift the paradigm into also being able to use machine-to-machine communication and also not having the data being locked up as capital by a small number of big companies. And able to allow this ecosystem to thrive, and these feedback loops, this information is crucially to share. So maybe this could be one of the things, also as teams together, to see if you could collaborate. Because, for example, if one team is working on the car interfaces, and another team is working on energy, maybe could you already create together the machine-to-machine situations that would actually allow you to work together? Because then you're taking a step that could strengthen both of your propositions and your ideas, and actually taking a big leap forward in enabling this ecosystem machine-to-machine to emerge, helping each other, and thereby strengthening the whole cause. Am I taking too long? I'm taking too long. Yeah, but that's something I would love to share.
Regrettably, time's up for the collective talk, but we still have 1 hour at the bar with beer. That's always good.
55 minutes.
55 minutes, because we are 5 minutes over time. Thank you very much. Before I give the word back to Max, thank you enormously for being here, giving us your brains, your energy. Let us fill it up with all crazy thoughts, and let's build some crazy shit together.
Yeah, so one thing to add.
On the stage, always on the stage.
It's actually really easy to enroll
in the hackathon, and some of you have done this already, so do not hesitate. Do not hesitate for a minute, because you will be too late, and you will be getting a call from me. Oh, what a nice application. Unfortunately, I have to put you on the waiting list. That would be a shame. So please act fast. Thank you.
It's just no doubt, go there. It's one of the coolest places on earth. It's in Groningen, I think. Besides Groningen, it's still the coolest place on earth.
Yeah, cool. Can't wait to be there. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. See you on the hackathon.
See, yeah, Dimitri, are you leaving us? Do you want to stay for the closure, no?
I will be there. Yeah, I'll be there.
Okay.
If that's a question, or...
No, we are closing in right now. We are closing in, so no more question will be asked unless you can... I can move my computer maybe to the cafe, to the bar, and people can ask you questions afterwards. If you're up to it, if you're up for it, I'm up for it. So it depends on you.
My colleague Jerry in front, he will take all questions.
Oh,
related to.
What a friend! What a friend!
I will be sent into Jerry right now.
Okay, thank you anyhow, Dimitri, for joining us tonight. Thank you very much.
Bye, guys. Bye-bye.